Hello, everybody. This is Anthony Bjorns from Mission Start Podcast, and if you've been wondering, why there hasn't been a Conover episode, well, fear not, no more.
We were on strike because of our student leadership, and the coach stands with us.
Yeah. No.
Sorry, Missouri University joke. Never mind.
Okay, never mind. Okay, gotcha. So joining me tonight, we have Jeremy, as well as oh man, I'm totally drawing.
Jesse.
Wow.
Jesse.
It's Jesse.
Wow. Okay.
Usually it's the black guy who they say, "Who is this?"
But yeah, like these two are joined us tonight to talk about everything Comikaze that has happened. I believe by the time you listen to this, like a week ago. So
yeah, it was a week ago. Yeah.
So guys, Comikaze. What was different this year than last year?
Well, they didn't crash the plane into the boat this... Oh, not that Comikaze. Okay, never mind.
God, you're awful.
Yes, I am.
But yeah.
No, the biggest change. I mean, the biggest change is they split the convention into two halls.
Okay.
Yep.
Go into detail. Like why? Okay, first off, why, and second off, how?
Well, there was no straight explanation as to why. Some people will say it's because the convention has grown, which it did. However, I have a working theory on that, and people can agree or disagree as they see fit. It's the internet, which means they're going to do both. Now, Comikaze usually puts up its dates late. They seem to be very late to the party when it comes to picking an actual weekend to hold this con, usually in late October, early November. I think, unfortunately, they got caught under their own procrastination, so they didn't get the larger of the two halls in the Los Angeles Convention Center. They got stuck in the West Hall, which is not big enough for their purposes, so they had this weird split. If you've read the previous reports or you've been there, you know that for the last 3 years, they've had one of the best designs I've ever seen as far as a convention center. They had the dealer's hall, and they had the main stage with all their marquee panels and guests at the back of the dealer's hall. So every time you wanted to go see a major guest, you had to walk clean through the dealer's hall from beginning to end to go see it, which it sounds like a hassle, but it's brilliant from the standpoint of money because that means dealers get second and third chances to see people who may have thought about a purchase and said no.
I see. So for this year, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, this year, the main stage, all the cosplay groups, fan groups, cosplay guests, and like most of the autograph booths and stuff were all segregated to the South Hall in their own little piece of the South Hall, like the far right side of it only. So all this stuff is just off to the side, away from the dealers and the artists.
Did it feel that like what was your feeling when you first saw this? Like were more people
on Friday?
Oh, yeah.
On Friday? On Friday, it seems like no one's going to come over to the South Hall because they don't know it exists.
Yeah, on Friday, it really did feel like the dark side of the moon. Can we weave a tale for you?
Sure.
We got there early on Friday. We didn't appear the day before like we usually did because of work obligations and money and little things like that. Yeah. So early on Friday, we went and we picked up our badges, and then we wandered into the South Hall just because we're trying to get a lay of the land. Jesse was smart enough to read the maps and realize most of this was going to happen in the West Hall. When we got to the South Hall,
all the emails, so
yeah. When we got to the South Hall, it was almost sad. There must have been at most maybe 30 people wandering around, whereas there's usually a few hundred.
That many?
At this point. I'm being generous.
Wow.
Yes, you are.
Wow.
And all those people were sitting around waiting for the hall to open without realizing they were in the part of the building that had the least to do with Comikaze. And I even tried to drop hints as loudly as possible. As I was walking with Jesse, I can't believe all this is in the West Hall, and people just completely ignored me.
So wait, so then what exactly was in the South Hall exactly? Like what were they offering in that building or that part of the area?
Just a lot of things for people to see, memorabilia of old props, replications, and whatnot, and some entertainment talent.
Yeah, it was fan groups. It was sci-fi guests. It was the autograph section, the photo booth. Well, when I say photo booth, I mean your photo ops with, whomever you bought a ticket to get a photo with. and the main stage. I mean, on Friday we walked in like middle of the day just to check it out because we were curious, and no lie, it almost felt pathetic over there.
Wow.
I mean, you have the two stars, the two guys who played the astronauts in 2001 Space Odyssey, sitting at a table, and the two of them combined were talking to three people.
Wow. That is not a good sign.
No, it wasn't. We had some depressing thoughts in our head when we saw that. It's like, oh wow, it's not gonna be that great. But then we also realized it's Friday.
That's true too. Yeah, definitely. So everything was pretty much in the West Hall, as you guys said so far.
That's where all the life was on Friday. On Saturday, everything filled out rather well when anybody who couldn't get Friday off showed up.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, it built quickly.
Our doubts were dashed, thankfully.
Not dashed necessarily. It's just it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it still felt like the people in the South Hall were getting the short shrift. I think they were banking on this setup where all the stars in this section would draw more people to this particular section, but it was still the vast minority of people were over on that side. You know, the overwhelming amount of them were over by the dealer's hall.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm still kind of curious as to why exactly that happened, but
I'm chalking it up to their usual procrastination. Most cons will announce their dates at the latest, typically about 10 months before their next convention, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this one did it. This one did it about 3 months before.
Oh wow, I see. Gotcha.
So I always know when About is coming. I know when to plan to use my money, although I don't generally get the exact dates until spring to summer.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Good to know. So aside from that, what were some of the things that kind of stood out to you at this Comikaze for this year?
Dungeon Master is still an excellent fracking show.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I think seeing a lot more variety in I'm looking for a right word for that. I don't say challenging, but I think that's not the correct word I'm looking for. But some really creative cosplays out there.
Like?
Oh, now you put him on the spot.
The Sailor Avengers.
Oh, okay, cool, awesome.
That was fun. There was a family dressed up as characters from Invader Zim, complete with those gigantic heads.
No way. That's
Yeah,
sick.
we could never get a straight photo of them because every time we ran across them, they were either mobbed by people or they were taking off their heads and trying to breathe.
That's awesome. I love it. That's really cool.
Jesse, back me up here. Was there more industry artists this year than there were the last few? It felt like there was a lot more people with actual cred.
I couldn't tell you. I really don't pay attention to the numbers. I was like, ooh, that looks pretty.
No, Artist Alley seemed to have exploded. They condensed it all instead of spreading it around the hall into one area, which took up roughly a quarter of the overall hall, really. Hello?
I'm still here. Yeah.
Echo.
Okay, just a sudden sniffing sound in silence. I expected crickets or something.
Oh, no, sorry. But repeat again. Sorry, I was distracted.
I think with all the artist tables, they weren't spread all over the hall like they usually were. They were all condensed, and I think the artists took up somewhere around a quarter of the overall exhibit hall.
Okay.
So artists were an actual force, and they weren't just industry; they were independents as well.
That's cool. You know, I mean, I'm all in favor for more artists to get more spotlight. So then by that, does that mean there were less guests that were invited for Comikaze this time around, or?
Oh no, there were more guests than ever that actually that were important.
Good majority of the original Power Rangers were signed up over there. The entire All That cast was there apparently, or most of them.
Yeah, they had an All That reunion. Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura in the original Star Trek, showed up. Walter Koenig, who was the first Pavel Chekhov, showed up. Nice. William Shatner was there. Let me see. Like I said, the two stars of 2001 Space Odyssey, Summer Glau, Danielle Panabaker from The Flash, several of the B-cast from Sons of Anarchy. There's a ton of guests to show up to fulfill a few different genre fandoms. Yoshiki made another unannounced appearance. from X Japan.
Oh yeah.
He seems to be doing that, at least at Comikaze, just come up unannounced.
Well, that's because he and Stan Lee have made a comic book together. They're up to their 4th issue.
Oh wow, awesome, sweet.
And now they're making like digital motion comics. Not like the Marvel ones that have voiceover, but just motions. You know, you read them at your pleasure. And Yoshiki also did the soundtrack for it.
Oh, sick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
You know,
Yeah, I
and
need
while
to
he
get
was
that album.
while he was there, he dropped a bomb that J-Rock fans have been waiting to hear for a while, and he said that X Japan is doing his first tour in 20 years.
Oh wow, that is
Wow.
nuts.
Oh yeah, he said they're going all over Japan, then they're going to Europe, and then he just kind of squeaked out, "Oh yeah, and we're going to the U.S. and we're going to play Los Angeles too." And all of a sudden there was this gigantic sucking sound of like fangirls across the stadium just breathing in.
Oh
You
my
supposed
God,
to
it's
be back
happening.
by Halloween again?
Could very well be.
That'd be hilarious. That's really cool though. That's pretty awesome. Glad to hear that. So
Yeah, and I got more hate. I got more hate during that announcement.
why?
Really?
Yeah, let me lay this out. Last year at Comikaze, I was by myself at the main stage when Yoshiki and Stan announced Blood Red Dragon. And after it was done, you know, Stan immediately left the stage. Yoshiki stayed to sign autographs, and I was right up front, and he was leaning over me to grab some stuff to sign. I didn't have anything to sign, and my hands were full of camera, so I just kind of said, you know, quietly while he was over there, "Really appreciate your music." And he says, "Thank you," while without looking at me, still signing stuff. And that's when 3 girls piped up, "I appreciate your music too."
Oh, this.
But the part that hurt was that he didn't say anything to them. So all of a sudden I could feel this aura of hate building around me.
Damn.
I could feel something burning in the back of my head too. It was really weird. So flash forward to this year, and they had a Q&A section between Stan, Yoshiki, and the crowd, and they had time for one more, and nobody said anything. So I raised my hand, and I just yelled out, "Really enjoyed your piano tour. When is the next one?" And that he said, "Thank you." And he immediately started talking, not about a piano tour, but about the X Japan tour, which was cool. But because he started with "thank you," all of a sudden I could smell it again. That burning smell that's coming from my own skin because people don't like it when he says "thank you" to me, apparently.
Huh? Is there a thing that people just don't like? I don't know what. I don't get that. Why?
They're
people...
fracking jealous, man. He acknowledges my presence and he doesn't acknowledge theirs.
Oh,
I think the next
see.
time he makes an appearance and I decide to speak to him, I might need a heat shield.
So basically, it's like the ultimate senpai notice me moment, pretty much.
Yeah, except it's the 40-year-old bald guy who gets all the attention.
That's great. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay.
It's fracking scary in there.
Well, you're a big man, so. Well, yeah. I think you'll be fine. I think. Well.
Yeah, we'll see. I saw plenty of people carrying halberds and baseball bats and stuff.
Good point.
Freaking cosplayers.
What were some other things you guys managed to check out when you were there at Comikaze?
Let's see. We saw William Shatner's panel where he announced his new motion comic line and company Shatner Singularity.
Cool.
Which, you know, not trying to sound denigrating, but Shatner Singularity for a company name really sounds like something horrible you did in a bathroom.
Yes, exactly.
But it's really weird to see him on stage, vivacious and talking, and that's one of those moments where you look at him, and as close as you can get at that stage, I think the worst view was like 200 feet away, and you're still thinking, I never thought I would be this close to Captain Kirk. I just seriously never thought I'd be this close.
Yes, definitely. Okay, that's cool.
You know, God, what else do we do? We saw the they upgraded the Stan Lee Museum for Comikaze.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more there.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, what did they add?
A lot of it is homage. I'm sorry, Jesse. I'm talking all over. You speak. Fuck. You speak.
Oh, if I recall, last time it was nearly as big. There's almost a section and a half more stuff to look at from this. Words escape me right now.
Come on, man. I gave you the spotlight willingly.
But there's just so much more comic history that he was involved in that we get to see that some of it I wasn't even aware of.
I was embarrassingly aware of what I was looking at for the most part. God, there were life-size recreations of the movie versions of Captain America, Ant-Man, and like every Iron Man armor they've used thus far.
Sick.
There was an oversized Hulk. There was several memorabilia items, like limited edition stuff, all of which had Stan Lee's signature, which I'm sure just made people want to reach out and like grab it. Even that replica of Ultimate Thor's hammer, that thing is huge.
Damn.
Oh yeah.
The thing looks like a gigantic metal sledge. It's disgustingly huge.
Is that to proportions?
Yes.
Yes.
I would say it's life-size scale. Yes, it is like a. God, I'd almost say the handle of this thing it would take like 3 hands to lift it up. It's huge.
Damn, that's actually kind of cool.
And he also had in these plexiglasses like the original pencil drawings of pages from different comic books. Some of the easier ones for me to identify was he had the big splash page in the second to last issue of the Phoenix Saga that had like all the X-Men surrounded by the Shi'ar on their ship, and it's weird to just stare at it and go, I want to touch it, but that there's something deep inside that says, don't do it, dick. You know?
That's awesome.
Besides the painted glass and some plastic.
Oh, there's that.
That's cool.
He has a multitude of things it looks like he's kept throughout his career, and it's stuff that people would kill for without his signature, and he has it. And a lot of it has his extra pen on it.
I kind of wonder if this is like only a part of his stuff that he was willing to show, because I can only imagine he has just tons of stuff.
I wonder about that myself, because the original pencil drawings, obviously he took that from his time working at or working for Marvel. The things I can't quantify was that he has a disturbing amount of Sideshow collectible statues. And
Yeah.
I seriously doubt he paid for those. I think he maybe as a form of royalties or something, instead of getting cash, he might be getting like one of each run that he can just put somewhere.
Yeah, just have it around like at his house, just tons of stuff.
I doubt he has it as his house, because as much stuff as Sideshow puts out, that would be like 3.5 man caves.
We've seen a house with all of them.
Yeah, sooner or later, that goes from man cave to, look, this is my shrine to me, and then, God damn it, I need a separate house for all this. Would you stop it?
That'd be kind of weird to have, but kind of cool at the same time. Very flattering at the very least.
It'd be flattering if you were just receiving it. If you're putting it all up, you kind of wonder if your guests would just go, you are an egomaniac.
Yeah, man, that ego must be just flying so high, be going over Trump Tower. But
It's Stanley. I think he can get away with that.
Yeah, this is the same guy who was on the stage with Yoshiki and kept saying, I hate this guy. He's almost as famous as me.
Nice, that's awesome. So out of curiosity, so this is, for those who don't know, Comikaze is a 3-day event that's usually held in LA. And
Late October, early November, yeah.
Right. Just out of curiosity, was the prices for this year, did they change at all, or were they the same like this last year?
No, they're about the same.
They're roughly the same. They're doing pretty good at holding down costs to fans and then just dealing with things somewhere on the other side. I don't know if that means exhibitors are paying more or if artists are paying more, but they're doing a good job of making it accessible, I think. And what was it? It was like $60 for the weekend?
Yep.
Yeah, $60 for the weekend, and they actually have convention exclusives.
Sweet. All right. Cool. It's pretty awesome. In terms of Comikaze stuff's always been good. I don't doubt there has been any issues per se, but then again, it's kind of a case by case basis. So for this year, how was the Comikaze staff?
Comikaze staff?
Yeah.
I like how you phrase that, because as we all know, when you're at a con, there's 2 sets of staff: the ones you want to talk to and the ones you really don't.
Yeah, and unfortunately, between the two, there was like bad miscommunication.
Oh.
Yeah. As far as the Comikaze staff, really nice people. Seriously. They're helpful. They have random people walking around with help me signs, and if they can't answer them, they can at least point you to the information desk to get a real answer. They're always like exuberant. They're always straight to the point. As far as convention staff go, they're great. No lie, they are great. Now, on the other side of the coin, Jesse, tell them about the convention center staff.
Oh, they're a bunch of hard asses. I think that's the way I can describe it.
Just go straight to the point, hard asses.
Yeah,
Yes.
right to the jugular.
Tell me how you really feel, Jesse.
Personally, I don't hate anyone. I understand they're doing their job and they're trying to keep things orderly, and damn it, and they're trying to keep things orderly. But they can be a little nicer about it. Instead of just barking at us. I don't know.
The convention center staff is, no lie. If you've read my prior reports regarding Anime Expo or the multitude of other cons that happen at Los Angeles Convention Center, they're generally the worst part of my weekend. They're no fun to deal with. They tend to be really off-putting when it comes to people dressed up in costume. They make it very clear that fan conventions, they really don't like. I've had most of my rudest interactions with convention center staffers in this building. However, they had miscommunications between themselves and the Comikaze staff, and it created enhanced friction for the rest of us because we got to be the ones to deliver that bad news where we just have to walk up. Yeah, we had to walk up to a convention center staff and say, where does press go? And they muttered something about waiting in another room. So we went and asked the registration staff real quick, and they said, no, you can walk right in. Just, tell them blah, blah, blah from registration said to go on in. So I had to walk back to the guy who says, I just told you to go. No, well, that's not what blah, blah, blah from registration said. The guy actually held the bridge of his nose and said something to the effect of, I wish they would get their crap together. Fine, go through.
Yeah.
I see. So, okay.
Yep. Again, that's a unique experience for us.
Yeah, and we got to be the messengers for that little bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, there's always been I don't want to say a theme, but it seems to me like when it comes to convention staff, now particularly with the actual convention, it depends on, it varies, but like from what I've experienced, what I've heard about, it's like most of the times they're not always the typical staff people to go to, and they're not as friendly as the actual convention staff.
Dude, I mean, I want to name names and everything, and I don't mean personal names, but I mean like convention names. Frankly, it sounds defeatist and just like I'm gonna pile on, so I'm gonna bounce from that crap. The problem I end up having though is that no matter what convention lands at the LA Convention Center, straight up, the convention center staff are the absolute last people I want to talk to because they either don't know or don't care, or potentially both.
Yeah, sounds like it too. Damn. But outside of that, did you have any other encounters with the convention staff at the at Comikaze, or was that the only time that you dealt with that?
Getting our press badges was an interesting experience. Very nice.
Well, you mean convention staff and not convention center staff, right?
Yeah, convention staff.
Okay, yeah. Press registration had a little bit of a kerfuffle because they couldn't find my name, and while I was digging for my confirmation email, they went ahead and approved me anyway, like on the spot.
Oh, okay.
So they actually, I'm not going to say that's typical or what should be done, but they were at least nice enough that because they did have Jesse's name in record and I had a card showing I was from the same company, they really didn't ask a whole lot of, I guess, what they felt were unnecessary questions. So they just approved me on the spot, got me a badge, and sent me on my way.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Good to hear.
Yeah.
So you guys were there for that weekend. Now, this is the question that we often ask on this show, but I gotta know, what were some of the cosplays that stood out to you?
Vampirella.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Vampirella, I'm talking like classic 80s and 90s Vampirella, which is like this bizarre kind of French one-piece thing.
Yeah.
The lady that decided to do Vampirella, I doubt she got the costume commissioned or made it herself, but it was even less than that costume in comics is.
It was like 3 pieces of red scrap, and that was it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I think you're being nice, because personally I think she just kind of wove together some dental floss.
Wait, how much is showing? Just on a scale of 1 to 10.
There will be a photo in the gallery. How much is showing? 1 being what?
1 being like mostly covered, 10 being like nothing, naked.
9.6.
9.5.
Are you serious? Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was one of those things where if I got any closer to her, I think I could have gotten a whiff of whether or not she was ovulating.
Oh wow.
And mind you, I never got in direct contact with her. I just walked by her.
Wow.
Yeah, me too. It's like, we both turned heads like,
Yeah. And
wow.
Jesse saw that momentary reaction. We're just like, do I take a picture? No, there's no way I can take a picture of this without sounding like a perv. I'm done.
Damn. Goddamn. Okay. I'm like, because the first thing that comes to mind is like, did the staff say anything about her, or were they perfectly fine with it, or
Dude, she in, out, around the building. Around itself, but okay. No, she went wherever she pleased.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. That's I don't judge, but like sometimes some convention staff will say like put more clothes on, but
You're judging.
I'm saying as a convention staff would be, but okay,
I don't know, the one cosplay that I saw was like this completely stood out to me. It was the first one I saw again out that Invader Zim family.
Yes.
Actually, the first one we saw was Sith Lord Anna.
Oh no, yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Sick.
Other than that, the only other cosplay that kind of sticks out in my mind, and Jeremy can attest to this, was that Fluttershy cosplay with the.
Oh, dude, the lady who was the lady who was tight lacing. Holy crap, that hurt my head.
Okay, explain to me what.
Okay, imagine a chubby lady dressing up as like My Little Pony Fluttershy. Yellow dress, fake pink tail, ears on headband. Nothing really unusual, right?
Yeah, fully dressed up, yeah.
Yeah. Except she was tight lacing, and what that is when a lady wears a girdle and they pull it tight, so it reduces the size of her waist by, usually somewhere around 2 to 4 inches. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that extra girth on a chunky lady had to go somewhere, so it went up. It looked like it went straight into her bosom, which, she looked like if you tapped her on the side, she would break like a tree and fall over. I mean, it was really bizarre to look at. And I remember Jesse and I were staring at her. I don't know what Jesse was thinking, but I was looking at that going, is that a parody? Is that a guy dressed up as a girl just pretending to have huge... But no, that's real. Holy crap. Okay.
No, I saw it as like, is she breathing? I don't know. She was talking to someone.
See, that's when you wonder if someone's gone too far. I mean, one guy's wondering if she's breathing. The other one's saying, is that a guy dressed up as a girl just having fun?
Yeah, okay. Huh. All right. That is interesting.
I mean, the only other thing that sticks out in my mind are the Joker and the Riddler as Star Trek The Next Generation characters. That was an interesting one.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Sick. That's pretty awesome. I'm curious to see what they look like when the photo gallery goes up, which you can find out on our website. We should check it out after this podcast is over. Okay. In terms of like now, food-wise, like do they do the food trucks like kind of my Anime Expo kind of does it every year, or is it?
Yeah, they do, and that was an interesting change as well.
Yeah. I don't really pay attention to food trucks out front because I have weight issues of my own, and you can't really count calories when nobody posts any.
Right.
So food trucks I tend to stay away from just out of personal principle. This one was kind of weird because during that jaunt where I mentioned we went to the South Hall and found it relatively quiet on Friday, so we were a little bit sad. And I told Jesse, let's walk out this way because I could use some sunlight. It's a little chilly in here. So instead of walking through the glass part of the bridge, the usual consumer part of that bridge connecting the halls, we walked in the cargo loading area behind it, which, Anime Expo people will tell you it's a shortcut when things get too crowded. In my case, I just needed heat. Well, when we went back there, we found 5 or 6 food trucks all on that part of the bridge.
It was strange.
Yeah, we would not had any clue they were there except for the fact that we just walked across them.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's not like they're lightweights in the Los Angeles area. These are some pretty heavyweight trucks. They had Miso Hungry, they had the grilled cheese truck. A couple others I recognize from prior conventions and from Twitter feeds.
Interesting.
So it was an interesting place to put them. I almost kind of lament they didn't put them on the side of the West Hall instead, where there were more people. But I guess they figured people were going to be walking back and forth, so they just kind of assumed that we were going to flow in that direction. I wouldn't say foot traffic out there really got heavy until Sunday.
I see. Huh. That is an odd choice to put, your food trucks at. I'm not quite sure if that was specifically where the convention told them to be, or if that was on their own accord. But that is interesting.
Well, all I can say is putting them there, it makes the front of the South Hall look, the parking area of the South Hall look a lot prettier when you don't have like half a dozen food trucks out there.
I see.
Yeah. It may be an aesthetic thing because, as Jesse said, 3 or 4 food trucks out front of South Hall, convenient, not exactly good. They could have done it outside West Hall, except, again, because of the procrastination, Comikaze did not have run of the building. There was at least one other event going on every day we were there.
I see.
With the exception of Sunday, as something else was setting up to begin Monday.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah. Actually, backing up for just a second, when it comes to the convention center staff, security was a real pain in the ass on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah, remember the Marvel photo shoot?
Oh, yeah, but that's something I kind of expect.
It
they
is
did that
unfortunate-
last year, too.
It is unfortunately expected. However, it's even weirder because, South Hall's, like I said, South Hall wasn't terribly busy. There was something setting up and then a small part of Comikaze going on. So the people running the Marvel gathering decided to use the stairs in front of the main entrance to the South Hall exhibit hall. Well, after only getting together to shoot about 2 rounds of photos, security came and shooed them out.
Oh, that's booty.
Yeah, they didn't really say a reason other than they can't stay here. And, I understand that there were people setting up. However, no one was going in and out of those doors, so it really wasn't a security or a fire concern. And they relegated themselves to one section of 6 sections worth of stairs. So this really doesn't come down to anything other than, the convention center just doesn't want them here.
It sounds like it too. Man, yeah, that's kind of booty, man. Yeah, I mean, it's from the sounds of things, it seems like the convention center staff just doesn't plain like these events. I don't know why. So okay, that's good to know. In terms of let me see, what else happened. In terms of stuff that you guys were window shopping or managed to get your hands on, like what were some of the things you came away from Comikaze?
Well, I completed my collection of the My Little Pony and Funko vinyl figures.
Sick. Sick.
I got a metal print of artist for IDW that does all the Transformers comics. It's pretty fucking badass.
Sick. Awesome.
Yeah, I scored a Kotobukiya, like Bishojo She-Hulk that I've been after for a while. I picked up a small statuette of Cyclops from his most recent Uncanny X-Men days. I got a print from Jimmy Chung, who was an artist in Avengers vs. X-Men, and he did some of the covers for Civil War, A-Force, and a few other things. Oh, and for $60, he spent 5 minutes in his sketchbook and gave me an original drawing of Psylocke.
Fuck yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you want to see Jeremy as a giddy little schoolgirl, that was it.
Hey, he's one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite modern artists anyway, and the guy talked to us, and his wife is actually going to listen to our show.
Oh, that's awesome. Holy crap.
So we had a fun conversation with her for a little while. And, well, she was also staring at me in the Mario jacket, and I think I disturbed her a little, but that's a whole different thing. Let me see. And I picked up a print from one artist I wasn't really seeking, but it's my nerd badge.
That's a story, man.
When we were walking through artist section, because Jesse is more interested in the artist than I am, we were just kind of palling through, and I noticed Jesse had stayed behind at a table when I wasn't looking, so I walked back, and he's staring at this print that somebody is offering for $20. And he's looking at the print. I look at the sign on the print, and it says 50% off if you can name everybody in it. And I just lean over to Jesse and said, "So you gonna name everybody in it?" He says, "I don't think I can." And
because I don't watch Attack on Titan, Walking Dead, or Game of Thrones.
Yeah. And so I lean over his shoulder and I scan that print for about 5 seconds and I said, "I can do it."
Oh.
And that's when Jesse just kind of stares at me with that expression of, "I bet you can, and I bet you can't, you prick." So I just kind of said, "No, seriously," and I start rattling off names like one after the other to the point where it sounds like I'm not breathing. And then when I got a third of the way through, the artist suddenly looks up from the table and says, "Hang on, I got to keep track of this. Slow down."
That's great.
So I went through the whole thing from end to end, pointing out each individual one. And by the time I was done, he just said, "Okay, you get it for $10." I said, "Not really what I was after, but you know what? Frack it. Here you go, $10."
Nice. That's awesome. Wow. Well, and out of all the stuff you guys bought, like, how much money did you spend? Like,
I spent maybe about $50, $60.
$200 even.
oof. Well, it's your money. You can do whatever you want, but
You know, it's one of those things where I thought about different comic books, but I've started to realize that buying comics as they come out is fun, but if you're going to be an honest-to-God collector, you got to buy those key issues, and those cost pretty pennies, and I already have, like, 10 comic books signed by Stan Frack and Lee, okay?
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm trying to be a little patient and stretch things out a little further instead of just blowing the wad all in one shot. And besides which, we can tell your show that we have an offer to be interview guests. And when I say that, I mean interview guests of honor at a convention in December in Las Vegas.
Yeah, that is true.
So
couldn't
really shoot the wad at Comikaze like I was intending.
That's very true. It's very true. All right, that's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. I think as like, you know, I've grown over the years. You know, it's like I tend to like spend less and less at conventions in terms of buying stuff. I mean, like it seems like I'm kind of gravitating towards the artist alley in terms of these conventions. But I mean that's cool.
You know, I can't speak for Jesse because his collection needs and mine are different. You know, he's single and I have a family, so my money has to go different places and where his goes. But in looking at my stuff, I kind of realized that my collection hit a critical mass. As much as I still want more of this stuff and could really expand my collection, before Fanime, I would have needed like a man cave the size of a garage to be able to put everything up and glass cases and protective stuff and earthquake proofing. And I was just kind of staring at it all going, this is awesome. And there's too goddamn much of it. So I've gotten to that point where I want to have experiences now, which is why I paid the $50 for the ticket for the photo with Summer Glau and why I just kind of wanted to go and exist. And, you know, the stuff I bought sounds interesting, but it was all to round out existing collections. With the exception of the sketch. That's kind of my thing now is I'm collecting sketches because I can put a lot of memories into a single book and hold on to it and flip through it, you know, and, you know, Jim Chung, when he did that sketch for me, he did something that kind of added a little extra sentimentality to it because he didn't just put his signature glyph on it like he does with his prints. He actually, underneath it, he signed his name and he put underneath that Comikaze 2015.
Sick.
So now I stare at it and I can think about exactly where I was, who I was talking to, what I was dressed up like. You know, it adds an extra dimension to my memory.
That's really cool. That's really, really awesome. Okay. That's pretty cool. In terms of panels or events you guys managed to check out when you were there, what were some of the things you managed, if you had time to check out?
We went to a, you know, what do they call that one? You know, shows you never heard of in the 80s or some shit like that.
Oh, cartoons in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, more obscure ones.
Yeah. You know, with the exception of the main stage, and this is something Jesse and I kind of discussed afterwards, it's a little weird how a convention with so many big names that were in sci-fi genre and entertainment at this convention, every panel that didn't happen on the main stage was basically a fan panel. Fan and entertainment panel. There really wasn't a whole lot of industry influence, even by the people who were in the shows. It's kind of weird.
Do you think maybe they don't have an interest in doing panels?
Do you mean Comikaze or
The guest?
The guest.
Well, they all had their panels on the main stage, like I said.
Oh.
There really wasn't a whole lot of extra industry panels because a convention with Stan Lee's name on it, it shouldn't be too hard to get. I'm not even going to say like entertainment figures, just like comic creators to come down and have half-hour to an hour panels just talking about projects they've done, projects they're going to do, and stuff like that. They really didn't seem to entertain the idea for some reason.
Okay.
You know, like I said, all the big industry guests were on the main stage doing something, and then just about every panel that wasn't on the main stage was either entertainment, and by entertainment I mean people just kind of putting on a skit, or fan-based.
Okay. Was there more fan-based panels than there was industry panels, or was there like an even, or was there an even number?
No, tremendously fan-based.
Okay.
Like I said, it's kind of odd for a convention that's called Stan Lee's Comikaze to not have more of an industry presence.
Okay, I'm seeing what you're getting at for sure. That is odd. I'm kind of.
Oh, you know what a good way to put it is? It was I think the reason why it felt odd was because their panel set wasn't really the panel set of a comic book convention. It was more of an anime convention. Very limited industry presence, whole lot of fan presence.
It kind of fits right in with the kind of late in terms of like getting the convention ready for for that weekend.
Yeah, that could have to do with it. I didn't really think about it in that terms, but that's absolutely true.
Yeah. So that might have been a good and a side effect from that. And it might have affected other things as well.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of disappointing. Maybe it's just my worldview of the past year, because after going to WonderCon, Long Beach Comic Con, and San Diego Comic Con, I've gotten used to comic book conventions having a certain amount of, let's not call it industry news, just industry presence.
okay.
You know, even Long Beach, which is a con of a few thousand people, had some interesting industry guests talking about their projects past, present, and future.
Okay.
And Comikaze just didn't have that presence.
And it's weird too because this is Stan Lee's convention, practically.
Yeah,
That's a surprising thing.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's not running the day-to-day. I'm sure some company is doing that. However, for a convention that has his name and has a known partnership between himself and Elvira in this convention, you would just think there'd be more comic books associated, or industry presence in it.
Yeah, definitely.
It just doesn't exist.
That is weird. I mean, like, I think next year we'll maybe have a better idea of what, of either maybe it's people are just not going because of this and that, or maybe it's another reason. But we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see for next year and to see exactly, because this year seems like it was kind of a, not like a rare moment where like things weren't particularly there. So
yeah, I wouldn't call it a bad year. I would just call it a year where they kind of took the foot off the accelerator a little bit. They're letting things just kind of progress on their own, or no, they're coasting a little.
Right.
Last few years have been good, so this year was probably going to be good, and it just wasn't as good.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think that yeah, okay, for sure. Okay.
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 I was going through the mental checklist. But
yeah, obviously a Joe Pesci impersonation was part of it.
Exactly. Okay, so in terms of, I keep going, don't I?
Yep.
So like, I'm trying to think of anything. If there's anything else you guys might have, discovered, or you might have come across, any odd or funny moments that might have happened around you during this convention.
Talk to them about what happened in the elevator.
Oh, dude. Yeah, for the first time in like 15 years of conventions, the best story of the weekend didn't happen to me. It happened to Jesse.
Yes.
Okay.
I was present, but I had almost nothing to do with it. It was great because, Saturday, the middle day of the convention, busiest day of the con, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're at our hotel, the Residence Inn, and all of us and our roommates got in. So I was dressed up as Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Our roommate Rachel was dressed up as Marjorie Tyrell from Game of Thrones in her wedding dress, getting ready for the masquerade. Our other roommate Mariano, I don't remember what character he's dressed up as, but he had this sick leather armor on.
Yeah, head to toe leather,
complete with a mask. And Jesse is in his utility vest, which is just like gray. He's in a t-shirt, black jeans, and he's got a gray hat with an Autobot symbol and gray My Little Pony ears on. Yeah. So we're in the elevator. We're just kind of chatting. It goes down 2 floors. It stops. The doors open, and these 2 black ladies get in, and they're chattering amongst themselves until they see everybody in the elevator. And they start giggling a little after the doors close. The 2 of them kind of scan the 4 of us, and then the taller of the 2, her eyes settle on Jessie, and the only words that come out of her mouth are, "So are you supposed to be a hunter?"
I was taken aback by this. Like, what?
Dude, he got
I had to
stunned.
look at like, you're talking to me?
Out of all the people, they go to you. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I'm like, complete shock. What?
That's hilarious.
But that's surprisingly sparked an interesting thing that I want to do now.
That's hilarious. Wow. So what happened after that?
Oh, dude, that turned into kind of the thing of the weekend. Half the time when more than 2 of us were sitting in the hotel room, somebody, either myself, Rachel, or Mariano, would just kind of invariably say, "So, Jesse, are you a hunter?"
Wow.
And normally I would get tired of that joke really fast, get utterly annoyed to the point where it's rare that anyone sees me angry.
Yeah, Jesse's usual reaction to ribbing is just kind of an awkward smile and a quiet F you, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
But due to this exposure that we're going through with the podcast and among other things, it's really, kind of toned that part of me down.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny because by the end of Sunday, Jesse really embraced this whole "I'm a hunter" thing.
Yeah, so the idea is I'm the fandom hunter, which means I'm going to wear different articles from every fandom I could think of on me.
That's awesome.
And not like just like a hodgepodge, Patrick clusterfuck. No, it's like I'm a literal hunter, so I got a piece from My Little Pony, piece from Halo, piece from, Taking Anime. And I wore them as trophies.
That's great.
So, fair warning, all you cosplayers, watch out, because you on the fracking list.
This is great. This is like, you're like becoming like the, oh man, what was the alien from, Predator, there we go. You're just becoming the Predator.
Yeah.
The Predator of anime cons. You're just gonna wear just a set of skulls. It's like...
No, just cons in general.
Oh, man.
The funny thing is, at this point, we could get T-shirts for our show, and mine would probably say, "Talks too much." V's would say, "Will hurt you." Steve would just say, "Angry all the time." And Jesse's, "I hunt."
That's awesome. That is cool. All right. Well, I guess my final question to both of you guys is, like, overall, how do you feel about the convention?
You didn't ask us about the hotel.
Oh, right. I forgot. So how was the hotel? What were you guys staying at?
We stayed at the Residence Inn where I stayed for the Anime Expo, and oh my god, do those people fracking spoil.
Oh, do tell.
We love this hotel.
Oh yeah.
Do tell.
It's amazing. The Residence Inn is made up like mini suites. They call it mini suites. I would say they're more like studio apartments because room for 4 has 2 queen-size beds in it, which most hotels have. But
and
they also have
sofa.
Yeah, they have a sofa in it that has a fold-out beds. And they have a kitchen that has a full refrigerator, 2 electric burner stoves, a microwave, place settings for 4.
And a dishwasher.
And a dishwasher, yes. Complete with at least 2 pods so you can run the dishes during the week if you feel like it. And if you, if you keep forgetting, like I do, the staff is nice enough to generally do it for you. I feel bad about that, frankly.
Wow.
I love this place. And we kind of got our heads twisted around because we stayed here twice and we're just thoroughly impressed with them.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't an ad. This is just us like gushing because of how much we enjoy staying there. Yeah. But on the last day, on Sunday, we had breakfast and we're sitting around. Actually, on Saturday while we were having breakfast, all 4 of us were sitting there just kind of talking. And that's when Rachel points out that they seem to have a waffle bar, and I'm like, what kind of place has a waffle? Holy shit, they have a waffle bar.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Okay, what's in the waffle bar? Because I'm not very curious now.
Well, they have this thing that dispenses batter, kind of like a soft serve dispenser.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You put it in a cup, and you get to pour it into one of like 2 pre-ready waffle irons. So you actually cook the waffle for a good 3 minutes, right then and there, super fresh, and it's light, it's fluffy, it's awesome. So on Sunday I had it, and it's not like they just kind of give you pats of butter and like a little disposable maple syrup thing and send you on your way. No, you can pour maple syrup, you can put butter on it, you can put strawberries and blueberries on it, you can put whipped cream on it, you can put chocolate chips on it. Yeah. This is a full-on waffle bar.
Wow, that is
so
awesome.
on Sunday I'm like, I had eggs with spinach and salsa, and I had some sausage patties, and I had some skillet sausage with potatoes, and I was feeling pretty good. But I was looking at that, just going, it's my last day here, and kind of want a waffle.
That's awesome! Holy crap! What hotel is this again?
This is the Residence Inn down in L.A. Live. This is like the single best place I've ever stayed.
All right.
Actually, there's one other thing that you talk about that it's more. That's something I don't expect to happen every year, but I think something like where technical error on their elevators, but they have screens on the inside of the elevators, advertising, advertising the city and telling you what floor, whatever.
Actually, they usually play CNN.
Oh, they play something on it, but when we got there, they're all static.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of creepy getting into an elevator when you're like there at
on
7
Halloween
in the morning.
weekend.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
You're the only ones in it, and then you realize there's stark silence, not even elevator music, and you look up and there's this monitor that has not black and white static, but that color one. That means it's just barely working. So I just kind of pointed up to Jesse and said, "Hey, Jesse, this looks like the moment before people die, doesn't it?"
And I say, "Would you like to play a game?"
Global thermonuclear war.
I would have said Silent Hill too, but tomato.
But actually, there was another thing that happened in regards to hotels that makes me sad.
And that is?
What?
The JW Marriott ended up on the same don't do it list that I have that I put the Hotel Figueroa on. The JW Marriott at LA Live, I stayed there several years for anime expos.
Yeah.
And last year, or actually this past summer during Anime Expo, they started charging everybody that stayed there from the convention an extra cleaning fee that they got back only when they inspected the room after everybody left and confirmed that they didn't need the extra fee to clean the room. I assume something horrible happened.
Yeah, something had to have
probably
happened.
during like Anime Expo 2014 that inspired them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they charge the same fee to people at Comikaze.
Oh, did they really?
Wonderful.
How much?
Yep.
How much is the fee?
An extra night stay plus tax. So your deposit will now be 2 nights stay plus tax.
Wow.
And you're not guaranteed to get back all of it because somebody at Comikaze mentioned that they left their room fairly clean, but they still got charged the extra cleaning fee.
That is...
Well, when I say charged, I mean it wasn't refunded to them after they left.
That is booty hole. Oof. Man.
So now it sounds like they're doing that to every fandom. So, whatever somebody did during Anime Expo may have not just ruined it for people staying there for acts. It may have ruined it for all of us.
Man. Oh, that sucks. That blows.
Yeah. So, like I said, the JW Marriott has ended up on my shit list. Just kind of weird to sit here and gush about one of their hotels and, another one of their chains across the street is pissing me off so vehemently.
I see. Wow. Wow. Well, good to know.
Sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But that's okay. The last couple of years, was it last year I had 2 of my rooms at the JW? Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, last year, 2 of my rooms at the JW had roaches in them.
Oh, wow.
Somebody during this year's Anime Expo reported their room had roaches in them.
Damn.
So
that is...
It's sad for a hotel that big and that bright to be like 5 years old and already have a roach issue that spanned a year.
Damn. That sucks. And if that... Man, I'm pretty sure they'll take care of it, but if that increases, man, that's... they could be shut down for a bit.
I don't know. Well, I was about to say the roach problem, that's up to them, but I don't know how they're going to increase their attendance during conventions if they keep charging an extra $500 every time you try to stay there.
That's true. I mean, if you're not a high roller, man, that's some tough money.
Or unless you have like a good credit card with $3,000 on it before you arrive.
Yeah, so that is tough. That's really tough to swallow. Yeah, I hope they change the policy soon because LA is LA, houses, multiple conventions, Anime Expo being, one of the biggest out there.
And they want to be a big destination, too, because the city has approved a plan to expand the convention center. Now they just have to approve the budget.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I hope, things changes, but, I've heard otherwise for the past year and a half of that hotel. So, I'd wait and see. But, yeah, not to my liking.
Yeah, so this is a rare Conover episode for you. Not only did you get a hotel recommendation, you got a hotel to avoid.
That's right, everybody listening at home. Avoid the hotel.
The JW Marriott, man.
JW.
It's big, it's flashy, but it's not friendly.
Mm-hmm. And
their people don't want you there.
But go to the LA Marriott. But okay, well, now comes my official last question to you guys, and my last question to you guys is, what do you think of this year's Comikaze? Pros, cons, yada yada.
It's a sideways step. For as much as they're growing, there are certain things that didn't go well, and there's no way to tell without directly asking somebody whether that's due to procrastination or if the LA Convention Center somehow gave them the short shrift because of everything else coming in. I do think it's worthwhile, though. Though it had trouble, it's got a guest list that's kind of hard to beat unless you're a convention of 130,000 people.
Which it's halfway there, according to their statistics.
Yeah.
What was their stats for this year?
76,000, I think.
It's pretty good.
Oof. That beat my guess. My estimations were 50 to 60.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I got an email saying that we grew 20% this year, like 70-something thousand. And then they also announced that we've also set the date for the next one already.
Finally!
It's right before Halloween.
Now, if only they will announce that they're leaving the LA Convention Center for Anaheim or something.
Yeah, that would be the dream, but they seem to like it there in LA.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the acid test for LA is coming next March.
Yeah, that is true. I can't remember correctly, but there was another convention that is based, like it was in Anaheim for WonderCon. That's what it was. Yeah,
WonderCon signed a 1-year contract with the LA Convention Center because the Anaheim Convention Center is undergoing an expansion, so part of it's unavailable. Rather than squeeze their convention into a smaller space, they just said, well, we'll go to LA for a year and see how this goes. And I've heard a lot of people crowing that this is proof that LA is superior to Anaheim. Personal opinion, not in your frickin' life.
No.
The Anaheim, there's more hotels nearby. The food is cheaper. The convention center staff are friendlier. The hotel staff are friendlier. And, if you're really that bored for the cost of like one Stan Lee comic, you can go to Disneyland for the day.
Yeah, definitely.
That was one thing that kind of blew Steve away when we were talking about WonderCon. I told him during the review, you could go to Disneyland. He said, no, that's expensive. Okay, seriously, is it that expensive? Let's see. Do I want to buy a $100 statue or a $100 Disneyland ticket? And then he looks at me and says, okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I say so. Yeah. Good stuff. Jesse, what's your thoughts on this year's Comikaze?
Walking between halls was kind of a pain, but other than that, still a relatively good experience.
Okay. Anything that you'd like to see improved, or
put everything back in one hall?
Yeah, outside the obvious.
Yeah, because Jesse will be the first one to admit he's not just heavy; he's lazy.
Oh yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining me for this podcast. Talk everything Comikaze.
Yep. Oh, okay. Were we expected to speak there?
Yes.
You didn't put a Scooby snack in the tray or anything. No, it's no problem. We enjoy cons, and it's turning into an interesting experience, and we're really looking forward to Great American Comic Con. This is going to be a big trip.
Oh yes, definitely. So, I'll put this out there anyways, and I haven't really talked about it until, more finer details. But we can say on this podcast, and as well, I should put it out there as well, we are going to the Las Vegas Comic-Con, a.k.a. the
Great American Comic Con.
Great American Comic Con. I want to say All American, but that's not it.
No, All American are like the guys who wear football helmets and play baseball while they're wrestling and get trophies and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, we're headed out there. It's going to be in the weekend of December 5th. I'll be there. Jeremy's going to be there. V's going to be there.
Jesse and Steve.
Jesse and Steve. Okay, they're coming too.
Yeah, it sounds like the whole crew's going to be there. So we're going to sit there. We're going to yak. I'm going to see if I can afford a game of Super Fight before we arrive, so we have stuff to talk about. They're going to set us up with as many guests of honor at this convention, including like the team that created Swamp Thing and Len Wein, and anybody who wants to talk to us is going to be invited to talk to us, which is great. Mm-hmm. And we're also, I think while we're there, we're also going to work out the details on our critical hit. We're talking about doing like an audio play of a few issues of Deadpool for shits and giggles, since we liked what we heard from Hollywood Babylon.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, you can call it a copy. We call it an homage. But,
yeah, that'd be great.
Sorry.
No. So, I'm saying that'd be great. That'd be awesome. So definitely we'll have some stuff over in our booth. Once we find out which booth number we're designated at, we'll tell everybody.
We'll probably find that out in the next week or two here.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, we'll be there. We'll have some stuff you guys check out. And if you guys want to come by and say hi, you know, we'll be there.
Yeah, but if you come by the booth, I just want to warn you ahead of time, don't make eye contact or feed the animals. You know, it freaks them out and they might attack.
Yeah, definitely.
See, and now all of a sudden Anthony's just got this image of Jesse sitting there at the table. Suddenly this kid comes up and says, "Hi." They make eye contact and Jesse leaps the table and there's this horrible tearing and rending sound.
No, Jesse, bad.
Then Steve's got to yank the leash. I got to put my arms around his neck. V's getting a Trent gun and shooting anything that moves. I mean, it's going to be great.
That's going to be the best. That's awesome. Cool. So, before I go, where can they find you guys on the internet?
The dark places that only your nightmares dwell. No, no, we do a regular weekly podcast. It's off this week for a vacation, but we do the Rolling 20s. We're actually talking about changing the format and paring it down a bit because we've heard complaints that 3.5 hours is just too goddamn long. We're also, I also am on cosplay.com on a regular basis under the screen handle Freight, and it's starting to occur to me that because of social media, it seems like the age of the message board is really dying here. And I'm also a convention regular. My schedule for the upcoming 6 months right now is Great American Comic Con this December, Anime Los Angeles this January, WonderCon this March.
Well, you can follow me personally on Twitter at Defected Naruto. You can follow the work that we all do on our website at missionstartpodcast.com. Be sure to follow this podcast on our website as well as on iTunes and Stitcher, and as well as the other podcasts as well. So hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode, and we will see you guys next time.